Hello, student. Welcome to our class. Our lesson for today is lesson two, specifically biodiversity and healthy society. So, first, let us define or let us know what is biodiversity. So, biodiversity comes from the two Latin words, which are the bios and diversitas. Bios means life and diversitas means variety, which generally means variety of life. So, biodiversity underpins all life on Earth and refers to biological variety in all forms, from genetic makeup of plants and animals to cultural diversity. It is the quantity and variations of plants, animals, and other organisms that are existing in a certain ecosystem. So, biodiversity is what we call life. It does not just limit itself from plants, animals. It also encompasses about all living organisms such as algae, bacteria. Then Now let's move forward. So what does it connects to the healthy society? So why does it connects to healthy society, which is the biodiversity? So human health depends on the products and services provided by ecosystems. Mm. Healthy ecosystem means healthy community. A healthy ecosystem fights diseases and stabilizes the climate. However, there has been a gradual diversity loss happening over the past decade, and because of this, human health has been greatly affected by it. So clearly, the world must notice the importance of the relationship between the biodiversity and human health.
Hello everyone, today we'll be discussing biodiversity, the incredible variety of life on Earth. Biodiversity refers to the wide range of living organisms on Earth, from tiny microbes to large animals and plants like rainforests, coral reefs, savannas, wetlands, and forests. The purpose of biodiversity is to support the stability and health of ecosystem, providing resources like food, medicine, clean water, and maintain the balance of natural processes. Biodiversity also contributes to resilience against environmental changes and support human well-being. Preserving biodiversity is a key to ensuring sustainable and balanced environment for future generations.
Good day, everyone. My name is John Michael Pipito, and today I will be discussing an ecosystem. Now, first of all, what is an ecosystem? So, ecosystem is a community of living organisms, biotic factors, interacting with their non-living physical environment, or abiotic factors is a functional unit. Now, these components are interconnected through nutrient cycle and energy flows, and they can range in size from a tiny tide pool to a large forest or an ocean. Now, components of an ecosystem. So there are two components of an ecosystem. First is the biotic factors, all living things such as plants, animals, fungi, and bacteria. Now let's move on to the abiotic factor, all non-living components such as sunlight, water, soil, air, temperature, and rocks. Now, every part of an ecosystem is interdependent. For example, trees use sunlight and nutrients to grow, providing food and shelter for animals, while the animals' waste and decomposition enrich the soil for the trees. Now, energy typically flows in one direction through a system, often from the sun to plants, then to animals. So it has been a cycle for the ecosystem. Now, matter is cycled within the ecosystem through process like decomposition. As we already know, what is a decomposition? Now, I would like to give you as an example. And I will show you an image of an example of an ecosystem. Now, from this example that as I was showing you, biodiversity plays a major role in this natural dynamic. A high number of different species in an area is a strong prediction of sustainable life. As we can see in the image, there are different particular types of animals, proving that it is a rich and sustainable ecosystems for biodiversity life.
So changes in biodiversity. So alterations in any system can bring varied effects. impacting not only wildlife and marine life, but also the human beings. So one of the example here in the Philippines is deforestation that harms plants and animals by destroying their homes. So for example, cutting down mangrove forests for fish ponds reduces coastal protection and fish breeding grounds, impacting food security and livelihoods. So this shows how harming nature affects our health economy. So from this, we can clearly infer that when our ecosystem is not well taken care of, then biodiversity encounters changes that may impact human health on such different levels.
Habitat loss and destruction. Habitat loss and destruction means that if us humans occupy land and build things like houses, roads, farm, or buildings, it destroys the natural home of animals and plants, or we called habitat. This loss of habitat makes it hard for them to survive.
And now, let's talk about the alterations in ecosystem composition. So this happen when sudden changes affect the balance of species or their environment. These changes can cause some species to disappear and new ones take over, which can harm the whole ecosystem. For example, when trees and forests are cut down, animals like birds and insects lost their homes. So how can this affect Mandiay? So this can affect because changes can lead to fewer species living there and affect the balance of the entire forest.
So now let's talk about the over-exploitation. So the over-exploitations refers to the excessive use of exploitations of our resources, often leading to its depletions or degradation. This can happen in various contexts, which is the first one is the environmental exploitations, which is the overfishing, the overhunting, and the deforestations, or over-extraction of natural resources. It's leading to loss of biodiversity and ecosystem degradation. So the next one is the labor exploitation. So it is exploiting workers through excessive working hours, or like low wages or poor working conditions, often violating labor laws and human rights. So the third one is the resource overexploitation. So it refers the overusing of misusing of the resources like water, energy, or minerals, leading to scarcity, pollution, or environmental degradation. So the overexploitation can have severe consequences, including the loss of biodiversity and economic disruption, resource depletion and scarcity, negative impacts on human health and well-being, the economic instability, and loss of livelihood.
Pollution and contamination. So, pollution is the introduction of harmful substance into the environment. It can kananggikan siya sa kanang smoke, garbage, kanang mga chemicals, and even noise. So, there are different types of pollution such as air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, like nana. So for example, kanang air pollutions, kanang gikan na siya sa mga vehicle smoke or kanang factory emissions, while water pollutions happens when kanang waste and chemicals kanang ilabay bitaw sa kanang rivers or kanang oceans. And contaminations kanang on the other hand kanang refers to the presence of unwanted or kanang dangerous substances kanang in something pure kanang like food, water, or kanang mga soil. So for instance, when pesticides or toxic chemicals kanang mamix sa atong drinking water, so mo na siya ang contamination. So it may kanang not always be visible, but kanang it can seriously kanang maka-affect sa atong health. So both pollution and contaminations are caused by human activities like kanang improper kanang waste disposal or kanang industrial production and kanang overuse of plastics.
Global climate change. Both climate variability and climate change cause biodiversity loss. For example, deforestation. Now, deforestation is one of the most common causes of biodiversity loss. Deforestation is an act of cutting trees or reducing the numbers of trees, which lead to biodiversity loss. Now, forests are home to many animals, and whenever it's gone, it will be the cause of their extinctions. However, species and populations may not be lost if they are not provided with enough time to adapt to changing climatic conditions.
Good day everyone. So today I will talk about the consequences of biodiversity loss. Biodiversity refers to the variety of life on Earth, including plants, animals, and microorganisms that live together in ecosystems. Even with the growth of technology and science, humans still have much to learn about biodiversity and what happens when it is lost. The idea of biodiversity loss was first explained by Charles Darwin and Alfred Russell, who showed how species depend on one another to survive. Ecosystems work best when all their organisms are present and balanced. So each of the species has its own role in keeping the ecosystem healthy. For example, ang kanang mga plants kay mag-produce siya og oxygen, and then ang animals is kanang mag-spread silag mga seeds, and then when one species disappears, the system becomes weak. So this one will affect the soil quality, water supply, and even the weather and the climate. The loss of biodiversity can bring many serious consequences. It can lead to fewer food sources, poor water and air quality, and the loss of natural medicines. In forests, when trees are cut down too much, the animals lost their homes, and the people nearby will suffer from floods and landslides. Biodiversity is very important because it supports life on Earth. It gives humans food, medicine, clean water, and a stable climate. So, losing it means harming the planet and making life harder for future generations. As scientist Selman said, Earth will keep its beauty and life if only humans choose to protect it. So in short, biodiversity loss affects both nature and people. Some examples like deforestation, water pollution, and etc. This reminds us that protecting biodiversity is not just about saving animals and plants. It is about saving ourselves and the planet we live on.
Nutritional impact of biodiversity. Okay, so based on what the module says, biodiversity really has a big role in our nutrition and health. According to the World Health Organization, biodiversity helps make sure we have enough kinds of food to eat. Kung walay biodiversity, we might only depend on a few types of crops or animals, and that means less nutrients in our diet. For example, we only eat rice and meat every day. We might miss out on important vitamins and minerals that come from vegetables and fruits. Also, biodiversity affects food production in many ways. So, sa ecosystem level, it helps maintain balance like pollination, soil fertility, and water supply. All of these help plants grow. On the species level, having many types of plants and animals gives us more choices of food, and even within one kind of crop, like rice or corn, different varieties have different nutrients. If people use too much fertilizer or pesticides, or if they only plant one kind of crop, biodiversity goes down. That can lead to poor nutrition and health problems. So basically, biodiversity is not just about saving animals and plants, but it's also about making sure we humans stay healthy and have access to nutritious food. Mauna, nga we should protect our environment because it's connected to our food and our life.
About health, biology, and biodiversity. Health is all about how our body and mind are working. Biology is the science that studies about the living things such as plants, animals, and bacteria. Biodiversity refers to the variety of life on Earth, including all the different plants, animals, fungi, and microorganisms that live in a particular area. So the question is, how are they connected? So biology helps us to understand how the living things work, how our health or body work. So biodiversity, kaya importante dyan na siya para sa atong health. Kaya nagdepend man ta sa variety nga plants, animals, nga pwede natong mahimong pagkaon, medicine, o kanang water, o air. So, ang healthy nga environment, di ba, kay makapa-healthy po sa ato ang body. So, essential jud ang biodiversity. So, essential ang biodiversity kay mao man na ang nag-support sa health sa humans. So, if atong i-protect ang biodiversity, kay mura na sad natong gi-protektahan ang atong health o ang atong well-being. So, think about it. Like, di ba, need jud ang ato ang lawas og clean nga water para imnon og clean nga air para iginhawa. Nga good food nga pagkaon nga healthy para sa ato ang body. But here's the thing, nature can also make us sick, such as kanang polluted nga air, kay tungod ng kanang gipasagdaan na lang gyud ang ato ang nature, kanang pagsunog. So dapat jud nato, lesson learned, dapat jud nato protektahan ang ato ang nature. Kay giprotektahan pud nato ang ato ang self.
And lastly, we talk about the environmental related illness. So what is environmental related illness all about? So environmental related illness can be caused of some diseases like cancer, asthma, or even heart diseases, and also the others environmental factors. So can be caused or worsened by the pollution. Tungod din sa itong pollution sa ato ang environment. So and also, human activities like farming or healthcare can also cause a harm to our environment by using chemical, fuel, and energy. So, these human activities can also harm to our environment. Also, this action can be caused of pollution and waste, which can lead to our more health problems and also environmental problems.